Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to be practicing adding and subtracting rational expressions with coprime denominators. Now coprime denominators, unlike the previous video where the denominators had at least one factor in common, here they have almost no factors in common. If you want to follow along, the links to the companion worksheet are in the description below. Also, don't forget to click that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the videos we have coming out from the channel. So looking at this first problem, our two denominators are 3 and 4. Now they have nothing in common. They are prime to each other. So since they have nothing in common, that means we have to take this fraction and multiply it by 4 on the top and on the bottom. And this fraction we have to multiply by 3 on the top and on the bottom. So when I multiply the top by 4, I get 4x minus 12 all over 12. And then when I take this fraction and multiply it by 3, I get 3x minus 12 over 12. So now that I have the same denominator, now I can write this as the quantity 4x minus 12 minus the quantity 3x minus 12 all over 12. And so we do this to remember that the negative distributes into this fraction. So we have 4x minus 12 minus 3x plus 12 all over 12. So that means the 4x minus 3x leaves us with just x, and negative 12 and 12 just leaves us with 0. So our answer is x over 12. For number 2, our two denominators are x plus 1 and x minus 1. So that means we need to multiply this fraction by x minus 1 and this fraction by x plus 1. Now, when you do this with algebraic expressions, you want to leave the denominator in factored form. So we have 2x minus 1 times x minus 1 on top, and we have x plus 1 and x minus 1. Here we have 2x plus 1 times x plus 1 all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. So again, leave these as the same and leave them as they are in factored form. Now I'm going to have to expand this out and I'm going to have to expand this out. So 2x minus 1 times x minus 1 is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is negative 2x minus 1 gives us minus 3x plus 1. Minus, so 2x plus 1 times x plus 1, so that's going to be 2x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. 1 times x is 3x altogether plus 1 all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. So now we can combine these. So we have 2x, so let's write this all out. So we have 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 minus 2x squared minus 3x minus 1 all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now the 2x squareds, they cancel out. The minus 3x's, they combine to be minus 6x, and the 1 and the negative 1 cancel out. So we're left with negative 6 over x plus 1 times x minus 1. For number 3, our denominators are 3x and 4y. So here in this fraction, we're going to have to multiply by 4y. Here we're going to have to multiply by 3x. So when we do that, that's going to be 4xy minus 12y all over 12xy. Here we're going to have 3x squared minus 12x over 12xy. Now in this case we have no like terms. No two things can be combined. So we have 4xy minus 12y plus 3x squared minus 12x all over 12xy. And if we look at the top, we ask, is there anything we can take out? Well, we can't take a 2 out of everything, can't take a 3 out of everything. So at that point, we can say that this is in reduced form. For number 4, in order to do this one, we first have to factor both of these. So let's write this as x squared plus 2x minus 1. That factors into x plus 1 times x plus 1. The second fraction, x squared minus 1, that factors into x plus 1 and x minus 1. Now this fraction has two x plus 1s. This only has 1. So here we have to multiply by the quantity x plus 1. This fraction has an x minus 1. This one doesn't. So we have to multiply this by x minus 1. So this fraction is going to be x minus 1 all over x plus 1. Now I'm not going to write this twice. I'm lazy. And so instead I'm just going to write it as x plus 1 squared, like that, times x minus 1. Over here, we multiply x plus 1 on the top, so that's x plus 1 all over. Again, we have x plus 1, and we're not going to write x plus 1 a second time. We'll just write it as squared. So now we can combine these. So x minus x is nothing. So then we have negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2 all over x plus 1 squared times x minus 1. For number 5, here we have two different factors, x minus 2 and x plus 1. So here we're going to multiply this by x plus 1. Here we're going to multiply this one by x minus 2. So for this one, we're going to have 3x plus 3 all over, we have x minus 2 times x plus 1, leave it factored, plus 5x times x is 5x squared, minus negative 2 times 5x is minus 10x, all over, and we're going to leave it as x minus 2 times x plus 1. Now we can combine them. Now since we're adding, we don't have to worry about any negatives, so we just ask, alright, we have a 5x squared, and that's the only term with x squared. Here we have 3x and negative 10x, so that's going to be minus 7x, and then we have plus 3, all over x minus 2 times x plus 1. With number 6, here we have x plus 1 and x minus 1. Now again, we treat these as quantities, so they have nothing in common, which means we multiply this by x minus 1, and we multiply this by x plus 1. So for this fraction, the numerator becomes 3x cubed minus 3x squared all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. This fraction, we multiply, let's see, we're going to have to expand that. So x times 1 is x times negative 2x is negative 2x squared, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times negative 2x is minus 2x, all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. Again, we're going to leave the denominator in factored form. All right. Now the thing to remember is that we are taking this quantity here, and we are subtracting this quantity. Now that's important because there's an x cubed term here, there's no x cubed term here. So I can write that as 3x cubed. Here I have negative 3x squared, but then I'm subtracting a negative, so that means I'm really adding 2x squared to negative 3x squared. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1x squared. Here I have x minus 2x is negative x, but don't forget the negative, so that means this is plus 1x. And then here we have a negative on the 1, means minus 1. So all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now here we have three fractions, but the rules still work the same. This has a b and a c, this has an a and a c, this has an a and a b. So in order to get a common denominator, I need to multiply this fraction by a, top and bottom, this fraction by b, top and bottom, and this fraction by c, top and bottom. So here I'm going to have a squared over abc. Here I'm going to have b squared over abc. And here I have c squared over abc. Now we're adding them, so we don't have to worry about negatives. So we're going to have a squared plus b squared plus c squared all over a, b, c. And we can't factor anything out of these, so this is in reduced form. Now with this one, here we have two x's, an x and a y, a 4, and a y squared. So this fraction needs a 4, doesn't have it, so we're going to multiply by 4. This fraction needs a y, actually it needs two y's, so it's going to multiply by 4y squared. This fraction needs a 4, doesn't have it, so we multiply by 4. It needs two x's, it's got 1, so we multiply by x, and it needs another y, so we're going to multiply by 4xy. This fraction needs a 4, it has it. It needs two x's, so we're going to multiply by x squared. And it has the two y's that it needs. So we have 4y squared. We multiply that top and bottom. So 4 times 2 is 8y squared, all over 4x squared y squared. Here we have 4xy over 4x squared y squared. Here I have x squared over 4x squared y squared. Now none of these are like terms because they all have different quantities of variables. So our fraction will simply be 8y squared minus 4xy plus x squared all over 4x squared y squared. Alright, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have suggestions or problems you want to see worked out, type a comment below. To support the channel, click the Patreon link to help keep this going. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the best way to understand something is to do it.